Hello.
Hello.
It's Factoraly again, isn't it, Simon?
It certainly is Factoraly, Bruce. Well spotted.
Thank you very much. I notice these things.
For all of our listeners, if you haven't been here before, welcome. This is going to change your life.
Almost certainly.
By a minute amount. I'm Simon Wells.
I'm Bruce Fielding. I had a bit of an issue with one of my teeth.
Right.
And I ended up having to go to the dentist, which is why this week...
We're talking about dentists.
Yes, we are.
We should actually give a warning. I know some people who feel incredibly uncomfortable just hearing the word dentist.
Wow.
So I'm just going to put a warning out. If you are a little bit dentophobic, which is a word, dentophobia is the fear of the dentist, you might want to listen quietly at a distance.
Yes.
You might just want to not listen altogether.
Yeah, you may not want to hear this.
Won't take offence. Yeah.
But if you do listen, you're going to learn lots of interesting stuff about all sorts of things to do with your mouth.
Indeed. Dentophobia, by the way, approximately 53% of people in the UK suffer from dentophobia, compared to only 36% in the USA.
Ah.
So in this country, we have a much greater fear of visiting the dentist.
Which is weird because we have better teeth than the Americans, despite the fact that they always sort of say, oh, British teeth are terrible.
Right. Now, explain that to me, because I would think that the Americans have better teeth than us.
Well, the British Dental Association has done some research. Now, this is from memory, so I may be wrong.
Okay.
But I think it's something like we have fewer extractions, we have fewer fillings, and we go through fewer processes to make our teeth look as good as they do. I mean, Americans do a lot of work. They have a lot of extractions.
Right.
So there's a lot more effort goes into American teeth to look the way they do, and it's not exactly natural. You end up with a smile that I always think looks slightly wrong.
That's interesting. So I'd always assumed the opposite. I sort of picture a classic American smile and everything is straight and white and shiny. And I think the Americans are doing it better than us. There's even an episode of The Simpsons, isn't there, where one of the kids goes to the dentist and the doctor presents him with the Great Book of British Smiles.
We can link to that in the show notes, which you'll find if you... Where do they find the show notes, Simon?
They'll find the show notes under the blog section of Factoraly.com. That's Factoraly. How convenient that we've got the word oral in there whilst we're talking about dentists.
That's true. Do you know what? I hadn't even thought about that. Well done. Dentists have been around for a long time. Longer than you'd think.
They have, haven't they? They've not always been called dentists, but people have been pulling teeth for quite a while, haven't they? What's the earliest example you found of this, Bruce?
Well, I've discovered who the father of dentistry was, which was an Egyptian person, somebody called Hezi Ray.
Okay.
Hesi-Re. Hezi Ray. In about 3000 BCE. So dentists have been around quite a long time.
Right. I've found one even older than that. Don't have a name for him or her. But I've found someone at least working on teeth in some capacity or other.
Yeah.
7,000 BCE.
Wow.
In the Indus Valley civilization in South Asia.
Uh-huh.
So, people have always had teeth. People have always had tooth problems.
Yes.
Therefore, people have always had to have their teeth seen to.
If I remember, they used to use beeswax for fillings.
Okay. I can sort of understand that, the fact that it's quite moldable, isn't it? You can mold it to shape.
And antiseptic, I think, as well, beeswax, isn't it?
It
doesn't have any germs in it.
Yeah. In ancient Greece, both Hippocrates and Aristotle wrote about dentistry in passing, not claiming to be specialists, but they have both made mention of going to see a person to have your tooth whipped out.
Yeah. People have come up with all sorts of interesting and unusual cures for toothache over the years.
Such as?
Crushed mouse was a good Egyptian one. You crush a mouse. Yes. And that gets... The spirit of the mouse goes into your mouth and extracts the ache from your mouth.
Oh, how sweet.
Well, they thought that there was a thing called a tooth worm.
Right.
That was the thing that was in your tooth that was causing you agony. And
I see.
You could extract the tooth worm. So many different things. Put both stockings on one foot. get rid of
naturally,
toothache, apparently.
Yeah.
Put a horseshoe nail into the lintel of your front door. This is a good one. You chew up some bread, and then you spit it out very near an anthill so that the ants carry away. You can complain to a pear tree. That's always a good one. There are a lot of different ways of curing a toothache.
That's great. I hadn't read any of those, but I sort of looked at the fact that there have always been people sort of selling herbal remedies and magic elixirs and things that can cure you of all sorts of ailments.
Yes.
All through the centuries, there have been hawkers and quacks and so on.
Yes.
Selling these herbal remedies. And it's kind of no wonder, because in an era before successful anesthesia, having your teeth out was not a pleasant experience.
It wasn't.
So you would invest in absolutely everything you could to stand even a chance of having it sorted without that.
All sorts of people were dentists.
Right.
Well, lots of people did like more than one thing. So, for example, a carpenter would also be like an undertaker because they could make the coffins. Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
But barbers and butchers both offered dental services.
Yes. So this is the concept of a profession called the barber surgeon. This has always fascinated me, that we all think nowadays, every single area of medicine has its own experts. You have a dentist, you have an optician, you have a chiropractor, you have a brain surgeon, you have someone for every single department. You didn't really used to, especially before medical qualifications came along. You just sort of had people giving it a go.
Yeah, I've got something sharp.
I can dig that out for you. You used to have, up until as late as the mid 1700s, at least in this country, you had barber surgeons who, as the name suggests, they were barbers who also did surgery.
Yes.
What could possibly go wrong? And these guys were sort of responsible for the body as a whole. So they would patch up wounds, they would do bloodletting, they would cut your hair, shave your beard, and whip out your teeth, if necessary, with all sorts of nasty, crude, blunt implements. And eventually these things separated out. So the barber surgeons became barbers and the surgeons became surgeons. The red and white stripy twisting pole outside a barber's shop?
What with the red, white and blue?
It can be either. It didn't used to be blue. I think they've added blue just to be patriotic.
Okay.
They used to just be red and white.
Yeah.
And that was actually started off by the fact that the barber surgeons would take their blood-soaked bandages and wrap them around a pole outside their shop as an advert for the fact that this is what we do. So that's why barbers have red and white twisty poles outside their shops now. Brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. It's important to keep your teeth clean, because that's the thing that causes the issues if they're not clean.
Prevention is better than cure.
Well, exactly. So what you do is you go and you crush up a whole load of oyster shells.
Sure.
And you mix it with chalk and charcoal and pulverized brick and lemon juice and salt.
Yep.
Et voila, toothpaste.
Simple as.
At least in the Middle Ages. And in fact, they found, archaeologists have found a toothbrush dating from about late 1400s,
right?
Made of hog and horse hair. And they found a repository of dental paste, which they analysed and discovered that it was made of all this stuff.
Right. Well, how disgusting.
I know. But the Romans thought wine was a mouthwash that was used for tooth whitening.
Yes, that's true. You used to get tooth powder as well.
Yes.
All of those crushed up items, just, before being turned into a paste. You could get a jar of tooth powder, you'd dip a brush in it, put some water on it, and it sort of turned into paste in your mouth.
I remember doing this. From memory, it was called euthymol. Mm-hmm. It's like a little flat disc of a tub and contained powder, and you'd wet the toothbrush first, the bristles, and then dip the bristles into the powder, and that was your toothpaste.
Great.
Didn't work, probably, but...
Well, advancements get made, you learn things along the way.
Yeah, but, there's no reason why you should clean your own teeth.
Isn't there?
Well, if you're Egyptian, you've got servants to do it for you.
Oh, I see.
And in fact, right up to date, Prince, now King Charles, was noted once for having one of his valets put an inch of toothpaste on his brush, ready for him to use in the morning.
Wow.
But an inch is a lot of...
I was just thinking that. Yeah, centimetre is at most.
Dentists recommend a pea-sized piece of toothpaste on your brush is quite sufficient.
I like the way that you introduced him as Prince, now King Charles. It sort of sounds like...
the king formerly known as Prince.
Exactly, yeah, the artist, exactly that. Exactly where I was thinking, yep. Now, this is something I usually start off with, but I forgot, frankly, so I'm just going to throw it in here. The word dentist comes from the French dentiste, which comes from the earlier French dent, D-E-N-T, which means tooth. And that gives us dental, it gives us denture, it also gives us dandelion.
Oh, yes.
Because a dandelion is a complete misconstruction. It's not dandelion at all, it's dent de lion, which means tooth of the lion.
Yes.
Purely because the jagged edges of the leaf of a dandelion look a bit like a tooth.
Have you ever tried blowing into a lion's mouth to see what time it is?
I haven't, and I don't intend to. But thanks for the offer.
You're most welcome. But teeth are also quite useful for identifying. I mean, they're a part of you. The tooth enamel is the hardest substance in your entire body.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's harder than bone. It's harder than anything else that you can have in your body. Tooth enamel is the thing. They're a bit like fingerprints, you know? You can tell a lot from somebody's teeth, or you can certainly identify somebody from, dental. They talk about dental records, identified by dental records.
Yeah.
And you can also tell how old people are by their teeth as well.
Well, by counting the rings on them.
Well, kind of, but they worked out how old Tutankhamun was from his teeth. They worked out that he was 19.
Oh.
Just by looking at his teeth.
Really? That's clever, isn't it?
Talking of sets of teeth, one of the most famous sets of teeth belonged to George Washington.
Oh, his wooden gnashers.
Well, they say he had wooden gnashers. But did he?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Well, that's the theory, but the practice apparently is that his teeth were made from either slaves' teeth.
Oh, no.
Yeah, sorry about this.
Oh.
Or ivory.
Okay.
Or gold. Or the teeth of hippopotami.
Well, I mean...
Yeah.
Ew to all of that except the gold.
I know. Dentists are very inventive people, generally. I don't know whether you've come across any of the inventions of dentists.
They've come up with a variety of methods, haven't they? I just think about when I go to the dentist nowadays compared to when I was a kid, you know, the fact that you can x-ray your jaw, the fact that you can use UV light to make your fillings dry faster.
And when you're sitting in a dentist's chair, do you find a huge surge of electricity pulsing through your body?
Generally not.
No.
If I ever did, I would assume I was in the wrong place.
Well, you might be, because the electric chair was invented by a dentist.
Really?
Yes.
Not as a means of anaesthesia, surely.
No. As a method of ending somebody's life.
Yes.
But they've invented all sorts of interesting things.
What else have they invented?
Well, I've had a heart issue, and I've got stents in my heart.
Yeah.
Invented by a dentist.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm trying to work on a pun. Stentist?
Stentist? Could be. No. How about this one? This goes against the grain for everything that dentists stand for.
Oh, I know where you're going.
So a dentist invented candy floss, cotton candy.
That's a ridiculous fact, isn't it?
I know.
I had a brief look at Colgate.
Oh, right.
I was trying to look at famous dentists, famous people who have come up with wonderful dental-related stuff. And instantly Colgate popped into my mind, and I thought, oh yeah, Colgate must have been a dental professional. He must have been a dentist who saw a need for a product and came up with one. Nope, not at all. William Colgate started off selling soap and perfume.
Oh.
In New York City in 1806. and he made various different products. He formed a soap-specific shop that eventually became Palmolive. It wasn't until 1873 that they started producing toothpaste, long after William Colgate was gone. So yes, it took almost 70 years for the company Colgate to start making toothpaste. So
how interesting.
It wasn't their original intention at all.
The first commercial on commercial television in the UK was for Gibbs SR.
Right. I don't know what that is.
Gibbs SR is a toothpaste.
Is it?
Yes.
I mean, I should have guessed that from the context of the conversation, but I've never heard of it, so I didn't want to assume.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put the commercial, you know where.
Oh, I know where. On the podcast section of Factoraly.com.
That's the one.
So, dentistry had traditionally always been the preserve of men. Even today, less than a third of dentists around the world are women. But the first recorded female dentist was someone called Emmeline Roberts Jones.
Okay.
Who practiced dentistry in 1855 in Connecticut, America.
Ah.
And she was married to a dentist. She was his assistant, and her husband had always assumed, and I quote, that women's fingers were too frail and clumsy for dentistry. She decided to prove him wrong. She studied under him. She learnt some of his skills, and she became a dentist. After her husband's death, she took over the dentistry business and ended up running one of the most lucrative dental practices in Connecticut.
Wow.
She was an advisor on the Columbian Dental Congress. She wrote treatises on the art of dentistry. And after her death, she was inducted into the Connecticut Women's Hall of Fame.
Very good. Quite right. You love your Guinness Book of Records, don't you?
I really do, yeah. I really do.
And so you must have come up with some Guinness records for this.
Now, this was actually quite tricky because we're specifically talking about dentists.
Yes.
If we had done an episode on teeth, it would be even bigger than it already is. There are an awful lot of records about teeth. The person who had 3 times as many teeth in their mouth as many other people.
Oh, wow.
The person with the longest tooth ever extracted.
Was he long in the tooth?
He was very long in the tooth, yes. Lots and lots of teeth-related facts. I specifically wanted to find one about dentists. I couldn't. It was really, really disappointing.
Oh, well.
Except for the most expensive dentist. This is a
Is
chap.
it mine?
It might well be. This is a chap called Tom Connolly, who has his dental practice in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. So, understandable. And he makes diamond dentures for people.
Of course he does.
Where other people are satisfied to have a gold tooth, in Hollywood, you have a diamond tooth. And he charges between $700,000 and $1 million for one single diamond tooth. And he is on record as being the most expensive dentist.
So make sure you don't get hit in the face.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless you have really good insurance.
Yes.
There was another record about the highest number of people brushing their teeth simultaneously.
Okay.
This was in Odisha in India in 2019.
I would have thought it would have been in America, but okay.
This was achieved by the Indian Association of Public Health Dentistry.
Yeah.
And they teamed up with Colgate and a couple of other people in a sort of an awareness-raising program to teach people about dental hygiene.
Yes.
They managed to gather 26,382 people to brush their teeth at the same time.
In time with each other to like a music track or something. Or just,
I really hope so. It didn't specify. But wouldn't that be great?
So can you imagine spitting the toothpaste? All those people are spitting toothpaste.
Oh, the logistics. I hadn't thought of any of that.
Yeah.
I found another statistic that said only about 55% of people, at least in the UK, actually go to the dentist regularly. And I guess this is sort of partly the fear, it's dentistry obviously has a history of discomfort.
Yes. Nobody enjoys going to the dentist.
No one really likes it. But anesthesia didn't come into force until the mid 1700s, so all of those barber surgeons were doing horrible things without any kind of painkiller except
Yes.
maybe a bottle of dirty gin or something
Yes.
to numb the pain. So, obviously it's got a bit of a reputation to it. And even up until, relatively recently, having the injection that makes your mouth feel numb, that in itself is not terribly pleasant.
No.
These days you get all sorts of lovely anaesthetic gels to rub on your gum, so you can't even feel the needle that puts in the anaesthetic, so it's
Yes.
much better.
Yeah.
But it still sort of has that association with it. I remember really disliking the dentist as a child. I'm okay with it now.
Good.
But that, and I guess the fact that here in the UK we're very lucky to have the NHS. We've have the privilege of being able to go to the doctor, go to the hospital without getting a massive, great big bill. So the idea of actually having to pay for the dentist feels like a bit of an outrage, and therefore it sort of puts you off going unless it's really necessary.
Yes. I don't think I've got anything else to say about dentists.
No. So that is the end of another episode of Factoraly. We hope that you've enjoyed yourself.
Yes. Thank you very much for coming. Oh, we forgot to tell people. What did we forget to tell people?
Oh, we forgot to ask people nicely to subscribe and to share and to give us lots and lots of praise and 5-star reviews and so on. So go and tell your friends, go and share the love, and please come again next week for more interesting facts on another episode of
Factoraly.
Goodbye.
Cheerio.